Hey, welcome back to Let's Fix Something. Huge project update on the Arctic Cat 250 build. Project completion. Let's check it out. All right, you guys saw in the release video, I was able to assemble, like the outline of this thing, but so many small parts were just not there. I had like an engine, I had a chassis, but man, oh man, as you can see here, this thing was like headed to scrap, and there were parts of it that I felt that should have went to scrap. So I picked up this 12-horse Kohler originally for the recoil, and the best I can figure out was on one of these Jacobson finish mowers with the gear reduction. Ironically, I ended up buying a rope ring because, recoils weren't used, and frankly, I don't trust the silly thing, so the rope ring was perfect. Got the thing tore down. The bore was pretty trashed. I had that board 30 over at Hanson Racing. Got everything else cleaned up. Picked up a crankshaft on eBay. Had that ground at Crankshaft Supply, 10 under. Bought a full overhaul kit from iSaveTractors.com. And man, this thing turned out awesome. Had a little trouble with ignition, so I had to buy another coil. And this thing runs really good. I'm really happy how it turned out. So at this point, it's time to start on the steel stuff. So I got it for the power platform. This thing had probably 15 areas of carnage I had to deal with. Broken off bolts to cracks to fatigues to whatever. Fair amount of gussets and welding and repairs went in. Started getting McMaster car boxes in left and right to the house like every day. I couldn't really leave this thing rusty on the inside, so I wet blasted it, brought it back in the shop, painted it on the inside, and then started assembling all the drive gears and things like that. All new bearings went in. Every bolt is new. Again, mechanically new is what my goal was, so I think I achieved that. As you can see here, things are really starting to come together. It is an awesome part of this project to be able to start putting new stuff back in. So one of the big unknowns I had was getting the wooden slides made. I figured out there was an 18-degree tip to them based on the track guide. So I kind of did some measuring, added a little bit for wear. I think I got them right. Who knows? So anyways, I got things mocked up and, just established like, hey, these are going to work just fine. So big box stores don't carry hard maple. So I went to Logs to Lumber in Hastings, Minnesota. He specializes in some of his hard to find wood. Thanks to my neighbor who was able to mill these things out for me. They turned out awesome. So I soaked these things in 2-stroke oil, not clots, for a couple of months. Worked really good to set them out in the sun in the summer. They really pulled in a lot of oil. Another source of brain damage for me was track guides. So the project came with 2 track guides and you need 26. So I built this fixture to be able to torch up some new metal and weld everything together. Also turned it into a drill fixture, but I gotta be honest, I got really sick of making the stupid things, but man, they turned out great, and I'll be an old man when they wear out. Okay, so the next brain damage is this track. So the cleats were in great shape, but the links were pretty rusty and stiff. So I figured I'd try some electrolysis, and in the end, it actually worked pretty good. I gotta say it was a little bit more labor intensive than I thought, but definitely worth giving it a shot. All right, so we got an electrolysis tank all fired up. I got power on it. We are cooking, baby. We are cooking. Mint. So when I say labor intensive, this is what I mean. The electrolysis, science does that, but you still need to mechanically abrade and, give the thing a little bit of help, change electrodes and whatnot. So when I got all done, I pressure washed this thing, for a long time. And you can see in this picture here, this thing has got a lot of bare metal. It actually worked really well. So after about 27 more mock-ups, I was able to, get this track on and get things kind of done for the final time, get those oiled slides back on, and wow, this is rewarding. Check this out. mechanized tank unit. So for the track fabric, I picked up this material you can buy online. It's tarp sides for like a semi. So between it and all of my brand new track guides, all new bolts, track went together. At this point, I'm just so damn excited just to get it this far. You put that track in and you put it together for the final time. Oh my God, is that rewarding? So at this point, I'm just elated. Like the power platform is done. Pretty happy with that one. All right, so here comes the most challenging aspect of this entire build is this gearbox, and can I make it work? It's a high-low reverse gearbox. Came out of a 64, 120D or something. So a lot of stuff had to get fabbed up. Engine beams and whatnot. Any place that I stuck that gearbox, there was a trade-off. So I wanted to achieve an installation that didn't put a lot of side load on the gearbox itself because they're just very small needle bearings inside it, which we'll see later. I wanted to be able to use the original engine guard. I wanted to be able to use the driven clutch that came with it. So lots of mock-up, lots of staring at it, lots of beer, just trying to make a decision on just what I was going to end up doing. Again, McMaster car boxes are coming to the house every single day. It was a big challenge. I gotta say. So I kind of did this backwards. So this gearbox, I just kind of went on faith with it. And when I took it apart, I was kind of scratching my head. So I got into this thing, and it was kind of a mess. And to this day, I still haven't found another gearbox to use. So as you can see, little tiny needle bearings. This thing is pretty raunchy on the inside. So I scrubbed and scrubbed. Had some issues. Like this thing was not going to last very long if I left it alone. So I'm glad I got into it. I had to make some concessions. Here you can see one of the bearings in the shafts just self-destruct. I got this thing stripped down, ordered all my needle bearings and seals from McMaster Car, get everything cleaned up. There's a couple of gears in there that are a little sketchy, but here you can see I got all my pillow blocks done, my pillow block supports, everything is all welded up, painted. And lo and behold, then I come up with this crack in this stub shaft, and I was devastated. So I welded the thing shut, and my brother, who's a machinist, cut me a new keyway for a 1/4-inch key. And I'm hoping this thing will hold together. Again, it's not under any weird side load, so it should be just fine. So the project came with this period correct Fairbanks driven clutch. And I didn't really want to leave, well enough alone. So I took it all apart. I just wanted to clean it and lube it and make sure it looked okay. This thing's like brand new. It's never, ever been used. It's just a little rusty. So I cleaned it up, painted it, and it freaking turned out mint. I really like this thing. I can dial in the spring pressure pretty easy. So I got to say, it turned out awesome. So I had to make a key. The Fairbanks is a 1-inch. My output shaft was 3/4, so I had to hand make this key. So now that that's over, things are coming together really fast. I was able to achieve exactly what I was after. The pillow block bearings take up all the side load from the drive side as well as the chain side. This thing is adjustable fore and aft for increased chain tension when that day comes. All the guards work with what I put together. So pretty freaking awesome. Couldn't be happier. So we're into the final push here. So this cab doesn't have a lot of redeeming qualities to it, except that the paint and the patina is just perfect. This thing is twisted. It's a little bit bent. It's had these big side plates weld on because it rotted out. The belly skin didn't take much to take off. It was pretty much toast. So I cut that out, got everything cleaned up, took care of a lot of carnage and got rid of a lot of extra weld that was on there. I picked up some steel and I started fitting up a new belly panel. It actually turned out really nice. Like, I couldn't be happier with how it looked when it was all done. So this thing ought to outlast me for the next, 15, 20 years or so. Pretty happy with it. So as long as I was outside, I was able to get a little bit of mock-up done, as you can see on the ski spindles. Picked up these springs from Rufus Ranch that were absolutely toast, my old ones, so those work pretty cool. And then it was on to just fixing everything else in the cab that needed to be fixed. So that went pretty quick, and it was time to get to the skis. I'm not going to go into great detail on the skis, but let's just say they were as rough as the cab. I ended up putting a spar inside those tubes that were broken, and they turned out pretty cool. As you can see here, they're painted up. You can hardly tell that they were fixed. So at this point, that cab is done, the skis are done, the steering is done. There's just one thing left to do, and that's made it up. After a little tweaking, these two halves came together, and I gotta tell you, this bolt right here in this picture is so pleasing. It's so much effort to get to this point right here. Just like in my last project, the creme de la creme, the cherry on top, is a seat made by Jack Lovis. He came through on this like he always does. So he bugged me to get these bases done. I added some hinges to these saddlebag tops, and it turned out awesome. We went with black with red piping. I got the bases done. Then he knocked out the seat back. And just take a look at this thing. It makes the entire project come together. The new, the old, everything all together just pops right here. So I wrapped up the only wire that would be in the stock chassis, which is the kill switch. And then I went a little bit further and I tucked a battery in that left-hand saddlebag. This thing already had a headlight on it, so I just added an amber bulb to it. It turned out really cool. It's kind of neat, and I don't go fast enough to overrun the silly thing. So I picked up a super cool old vintage taillight from Princeton Swap Meet this summer. Again, it just brings everything together and adds a little bit of safety to it. The last little bit that I did was just this rubber flooring to protect my brand new floor, and that was it. This thing is done. I am so happy to have this thing completed, ready to go for Pequot 2024. I am now officially part of the rear engine, booze guzzling, piss tank Rusty Riders Snowmobile Club. Hey, I hope you guys liked that build. Special thanks to my good friend Jack Lovis. Without him giving me the opportunity to buy this sled, I don't think I would have come up with one of my own. And his help throughout the entire project. Every single day I would ask him questions. We'd discuss different obstacles I was dealing with. He had an answer just about every single day. Jack built the seat on this thing and it looks absolutely perfect. So thanks, Jack. I really appreciate it. Special thanks also to Tony Rolfus from Rufus Ranch. Without a guy like Tony sourcing these projects and these sleds, normal people here in the Midwest probably wouldn't have the opportunity to find them and build them. This guy travels around the snow belt finding these things, bringing them back so we could bring them back to life. Tony, thank you very much. Huge shout out to Norm at iSafe Tractors. Again, this Kohler went together with all of his parts, and it is great to have a resource like Norm that still sells and services parts for these old Kohler engines. This might wrap up all the builds that I've been doing on this channel. To be honest, I just can't keep up with the algorithm. I can't keep up with the pressure of content filming. So
support your local vintage channels. Nutter Speed Shop, Don't Get Dave, Todd Klein, guys like that, New Hampshire Vintage. These guys really put the content out and they're doing great things. So subscribe to them, support them, and let them know that you're out there and you're watching. So pitter patter, I hope you guys liked it. We'll see you around.